Talk to me a little bit about how this script found you and the relationship you've built with Aristotle, because you weren't just an actor coming in to do this movie. You had actual skin in it.
There's something here that's beautiful.
It was a page turner. You couldn't put it down.
No, brother, no.
Yeah.
And you know, the story itself, man, was kind of a mirror of my own personal life and some of the struggles that I myself went through with my dad, you know, and just the whole environment. But I was also a social worker back in the day before I got into acting.
How important it was for you to hear him speak so highly of supporting you on your first go around when he didn't necessarily have to.
I know that when I see him in a role, he carefully chose that role. So for him to want to do that move, to do my movie, makes me go, okay, you know, maybe there is something here that I really need to believe in and be behind, you know. And then it's like when you're on the day and you're watching someone of his caliber and Asante's caliber and just really the cast in general take words that you wrote in a room by yourself or with Bonsu, and you're watching these people take it up to a place that you never could have imagined. That's when you're like, oh, I am here, you know. And like, I might not be Scorpion and Sub-Zero, but you can choose me. I'm on the board. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm in the game select.
I'm in the game select.
I'm in the selection box. Like, I'm there.
Good to go? What's poppin', people? Welcome back to Say Less with your boy Kaz. Low key.
What's goody?
And no Rosy here, but we have a very capable and appropriate replacement. Just for today, good friend of mine. He also brought a special guest with him as well. So we ain't gonna waste no time. We're gonna jump right into it. First off, we are here with not just a good friend of ours, friend of the show, longtime incredible creative, but the director and writer of Story Ave, which is in theaters now, Aristotle Torres. Welcome, Aris.
Bless.
And of course, alongside him is the star of Story Ave, but not only that, he's been in such incredible flicks, which you can catch in theaters right now, on Netflix right now. You Are So Not Invited to My Bar Mitzvah. You catch him in Carlito's Way. You can catch him in millions of movies that I'm probably forgetting at the moment because we were only specifically talking about this one. The legendary Luis Guzman is in the house. What's going on, Luis?
I'm good, my brother. How are you?
Oh, man, it is an honor and a pleasure to have y'all both in here. A couple weeks back, got to go check out the premiere of Story Ave in Times Square. What was it in Times Square? No, Lincoln Center.
Yeah.
And an incredible film, written, directed by you. And it is at a time where films especially have been, you know, such a hard thing to make right now. Not just with, you know, it being your first film, but just the climate of films in general could only be described as a small miracle that this entire production really came about. I heard a lot of stories you told at the screening. I heard a lot of stories that you said about this first-time director as well. But Aris, I want to start with you, man. You wrote this film out. It was obviously a labor of love. And it's loosely based on your life. Talk to me about how long it took to actually write this script and just the story of it coming from your brain to paper to the film festival to the feature length. How did it all start when you first started putting pen to paper to this film?
Bless, thank you. It's been quite a journey. So I started by writing a short film. I made a short film version of this in 2018. And I really wanted to make it a play. I didn't think I could make a movie at that time. And it's just like a life goal of mine to make Broadway more accessible to inner city youth, but not only getting them in the building, but making sure they feel comfortable once they're in the building. And that's kind of where my heart was. And then through a higher power, Sundance found my short. And, you know, if you're not familiar, Sundance started off as a school, as an institute, and then they developed the festival.
Okay.
But like Quentin Tarantino's their first student.
Oh, wow.
You know, so we're talking about like Ryan Coogler, Tarantino, Ronaldo Marcus Green, Paul Thomas Anderson. You know, just some of the greatest filmmakers of modern generation all have come out of that school. So when they hit me up, they were like, we really like the short. our labs have closed for the year, but if you can get us a draft in 2 weeks, we'll consider the script. And at the time, I was directing Starbucks, like real first commercial global campaign video wise.
Okay.
It was the biggest job of my career. And I was like, there's no way I could write this script in 2 weeks, especially on top of this job. I'm sorry, but I have to respectfully decline the offer. But I'll work really hard to submit day one next year.
Gotcha.
And thankfully, testament to them, they believed in me and the story even more than I did. They were like, well, we'll fast track you to the final round, which will give you 5 weeks. But your first draft will be up against everyone else's fourth draft. So it's not likely it's going to get in. They get 18,000 submissions. They pick 8 films.
Right.
They're like, it's probably not going to get in, but if you want to take the challenge, here's the code.
Okay.
And I quit that Starbucks job and started writing Story Ave. So, you know, that's kind of what got us to the place of me being like, let me try to even write a feature. And I had a co-writer, Bonsu Thompson, that we all know.
Legendary Bonsu Thompson. We'll talk about him in a minute
for
too,
sure.
definitely.
You know, so we went to Sundance and they really helped me usher and develop this small story into this bigger thing.
Yeah.
And it was through my relationship with them that they got me an agent at WME and a manager. And it took all these amazing, really talented, connected people in order to get this made, because I got 107 no's before I got the first yes.
I could imagine, man. It's not easy, especially in this climate, making an independent film, especially for a first-time director. You mentioned your co-writer Bonsu Thompson, who I call a legend in his own right. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Double XL, Source Magazine, all some of the best, one of the greatest rap writers of all time. Bonsu Thompson helped you write this film, and you know, it takes place in the Bronx, the birthplace of hip hop, and you know, it's not necessarily a quote unquote hip hop film, but it has the spirit of it throughout the entire story. So, talk to me a little bit about you and Bonsu's relationship as far as being co-writers, creating this, and making sure that the film spoke to a specific audience when you were making it.
Yeah, I mean, he, you know, my passion was just like storytelling, like structure. You know, so like we had such a great dynamic because, you know, he's really witty with like the lines, you know, and like, you know, I grew up an athlete, artist, nerd. So like I've never been in a gang, I've never robbed anyone, and not to say that he had done that, but he at least understood it a little bit more than I did in terms of the nuance.
Okay.
And you know, I'm an orphan, so like I don't really understand the dynamics between parents and mothers and sons. That's very foreign to me.
Wow.
So like Bonsu was so instrumental in helping me craft Kadir's mom and making sure that relationship felt authentic. You know, so I was really blessed. I mean, writing a script is honestly like, it's the hardest part of the process because actors, directors, producers, they get scripts.
Yeah.
But writers start with a blank page. So it's really daunting when you're just looking at a blank page. So to have someone there who's not only, you know, a genuine support system, but actually has good ideas is invaluable.
What's one of the main things that you learned from Bonsu during this entire process? Like one of the things that stuck out to you that you're going to carry with you throughout your career as you continue to write more scripts and direct more scripts? Like what's one of the things that just says, I got to take this with me every time?
Sure. Yeah, that's a good question. You know, I think it was just like, you know, I think so much of my job is collaboration. It's like having a very specific vision, but never putting my ego in front of the vision. So being malleable, being open, you know, so like it was just another great lesson for me of like working with someone that I respect that might see a little differently than me. But like, what is that balance? What is that compromise? How can we both hone in on our intention versus the actual words? And I think that's just like an invaluable lesson in all aspects of life, but especially for what I do as someone who like so much of my job is articulating vision and hoping people execute that.
Gotcha.
You know, Luis, at the premiere of this movie, you had you told the story about how the script found you and how badly you wanted to make this movie with Aristotle. You've been in a million incredible films over your career. And one thing you said at the end of that, right before the screening happened was, if this is the last film I make, I'll feel complete in my career because I got to make this film. Talk to me, before we talk about that statement, talk to me a little bit about how this script found you and the relationship you've built with Aristotle, because you weren't just an actor coming in to do this movie. You had actual skin in it. You actually felt like, you know, especially given the climate with the strikes and everything going on, it feels like in this movie, everybody had to pull in a specific direction to even make it work. And you were at the center of that. Talk to me a little bit about that process.
Yeah, well, somehow the script got to my management and agent people, and they turned it down because supposedly, the movie's not financed, so we're not gonna bother with it. 18 months later, I get a call from my boy Ruben Rivera. I say, yo, there's this script, and this kid's been trying to talk to you about it, and it's a really good story. So I go, okay. Put me in contact with him through email. I said, send me the script, I'll read it. I sat down, I read it in one pass. When I read something in one pass, that's something major to me because it's like, wow, there's something here that's beautiful.
It was a page turner. You couldn't put it down.
No, brother, no.
Yeah.
And the story itself, man, was kind of a mirror of my own personal life and some of the struggles that I myself went through with my dad, and just the whole environment. But I was also a social worker back in the day before I got into acting. And I saw how this character took on this young man and just try to help and guide him and foster him and be a good mentor to him. And so this script, this story had an incredible heart to it, and it really affected me. And it was the kind of movie that I've always wanted to do. I said, wow, I got the opportunity to do something that's New York, something that's close to my heart, something that I understand, something that I grew up with, something that I lived, that I felt, that I tasted, that I breathed. And it was all right there in one package. So I called my people up and said, guess what?
I found it.
I'm doing this movie. And it was a little bit of a battle because, we had the money, we didn't have the money. And it's like, whatever we got to do, let's make this movie. Let's make this movie. And, we developed our relationship, and he told me what his vision of the movie was, and I love everything that he said. And I wanted to also support a young filmmaker from New York.
That was my next question. I was like, how much, you didn't just make it in the film industry in Hollywood. You made it from New York too. And like a lot of your characters, a lot of the people that you've played over the years, it's been a lot of Puerto Rican Latino influence, but it's been a lot of New York influence as well.
Yes.
You see a young man who's also from New York getting his first time at a real big feature film. How much did that, I know you just mentioned it, but talk about how much that factored in to wanting to do this film, especially when people in your corner were saying, don't do this.
It comes to a point in my career that, like I say, I don't want people to take what I'm about to say wrong, but it's like, I make other people look good.
Yeah.
It's true.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, you got a long rap sheet, man. Like,
You know what I'm saying?
absolutely, yeah.
I'm responsible for a lot of that, right?
Yeah.
But like I said, this was something that was written. It was New York. It was an incredible story. It was like, I knew this guy. I knew this kid. I knew some of the people he rolled with. I seen the outcomes. And for the most part, we know some of the outcomes are not good.
Yeah.
But in this story, the outcome was about growing. It was about mentoring. It was about surviving. It was about growing, and at the end, like I said, it just worked for me because it was real, it was true, it was honest. And like we said, it's New York.
Yeah.
And even though I was dealing with a first-time director, I had my faith in him.
Yeah.
Because my faith came out of the words that they wrote and how they captured the story. Because, sometimes you read something And okay, you just read it. But in reading this story, all I was doing just visualizing it. And when you visualize something and you fall in love with those visuals, that's like, oh yeah, this is the art that I want to do, that I want to be part of creating and supporting.
And with that, Aristotle, I want to ask you, like, how important was it for him to almost put his neck on the line? This is your first go round.
Let me add to that question as well. I've mentioned the movies before. I want to make sure it's straight before you get into them. Thank you, Wikipedia, as always. Magnolia, Boogie Nights, Punch Drunk Love, The Limey, Traffic, The Hard Way, Q&A, Carlito's Way. I mean, tons of movies.
Count of Monte Cristo, Pelham 1, 2,
Come on, man. Like the list goes on and on.
So with that, the resume is stacked, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's already established, it's already done, it's already etched in stone. How important it was for you to hear him speak so highly of supporting you on your first go round when he didn't necessarily have to.
And correct me if I'm wrong. You said you only had Luis in mind for this role.
Yeah, like I wrote the role for him. Like I took like 2 weeks of just watching his movies, watching his interviews, really studying his cadence and like the way he spoke and his tone, and did my best to attempt that on the page. You know, in terms of like how important it was, I don't know if it was necessarily important, but it was definitely validating. And I think whenever you're an artist, if you're making good art, you're vulnerable. And validation from people that you admire can change the way you look at the value of yourself and your art. You know, so it's like, you know, I know that when I see him in a role, he carefully chose that role. So for him to want to do that move, to do my movie, makes me go, okay, you know, maybe there is something here that I really need to believe in and be behind, you know. And then it's like when you're on the day and you're watching someone of his caliber and Asante's caliber and just really the cast in general take words that you wrote in a room by yourself or with Bonsu, and you're watching these people take it up to a place that you never could have imagined. That's when you're like, oh, I am here, you know. And like, I might not be Scorpion and Sub-Zero, but you can choose me. I'm on the board. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm in the game select.
I'm in the game select.
Selection box. Like, I'm there.
And this is a really hard, you know, movies are miracles. Directing is really, it's the hardest thing I ever did. You know, like I said, 107 no's before I even heard someone say maybe, you know? So it's really easy to doubt yourself, and it's really easy to doubt the project and the value of the work when you're pitching the work to the people that it's not made for. So that's another thing I have to say too. Like, I hope that, you know, of the 107 companies I met with, only 3 of them were minorities.
Wow.
You know?
Wow.
And like, that's got to change too.
Yeah, I
You
was
know
about
what
to say,
mean?
that's a big reason why a movie like this, as beautiful as it is, it shouldn't be this hard to make movies like this, right? Like, these are the type of reasons why you watch films. It captivates you, you know?
I just want to say also,
No,
on
go ahead.
that note, one of our investors was a minority investor.
Nice.
That believed in us.
Shout him out. What's his name again?
Martin Cabrera
Okay.
and Robert Aguilar from Cabrera Capital
Nice.
out of Chicago.
Nice. Shout out to them. Definitely.
They have supported us. Man, they did a screening for us at the Box Theater.
In Chicago,
And
crazy.
it's a 700-seat theater. 690 people showed up.
Wow. Wow.
And then the Q&A was supposed to be half hour. We were there for an hour and a half.
It was
And
real.
nobody left.
I mean, I went to the screening in New York City, and that's not a surprise, because as you're watching the movie, there's so many inspiring moments, especially if you're a New Yorker, right? Like, I'll give a quick synopsis of the film. Story is about a young man who has a love for graffiti, and is in a group. I don't want to call them a gang, but they're in a they're like a tagging group, and there's rivals and stuff like that. But he gets into some bad situations, and to prove his loyalty to such group, he has to go and stick somebody up, which happens to be your character Luis. And as you meet, you see the sort of the relationship change in the sort of coming of age sort of way. And the reason why this is so inspiring is because I remember at the end of the film, somebody stood up, and I wish I remembered his name. I'm so sorry for not remembering your name, but he stood up and said, "I've never seen the Bronx shot this way." Right? Like you watch it, and he just like, sometimes you watch the movie in the back of your head, and especially if it's a big budget movie, you're like, that's Chicago.
Yeah.
That's Philadelphia. Like that, you know what I mean? But this, the Bronx is such a culturally creative hub for the entire world, whether it's art, whether it's hip hop, whether it's graffiti, whether it's sports, anything. Like the Bronx is such a hub for that. And the way y'all shot it was just beautiful and beautiful in its crudeness too, right? Like it wasn't squeaky clean, but the way it was shot, you could see like the sort of rose growing in concrete in almost every single scene.
Absolutely.
So I would love to just know, in addition to the writing of the film and both of y'all being New Yorkers and being able to put out a film about New Yorkers that takes place in this city, how important was it for the both of you to not just bring it as artists and directors, but the way it's shot, the way it's seen, the cinematography, all that stuff? How much did that all play in? Both of you guys, I'd love to hear that question.
Oh, you're the director.
Yeah. I think filmmaking is just intrinsically hard because so many variables are working at the same time. It's almost like football. It's like in your offensive line, if one guy is a little off, the quarterback gets sacked. The pocket collapses. So it's like it's a ballet. Like we're all, when everyone's making the same movie at the same time, that's the magic. But that's the hardest thing to get to. So it's me directing, it's him giving the performance, it's Eric Bronco DPing, it's our production designer picking the right color for the background and the right texture, it's the costume designer making sure that there's conflict within their fabrics and their color tones represent where they are in their emotional arcs. So it's all these things kind of working together in this ballet. It's called Mise-en, and it's obviously I love the Finchers and the Kuglers and the Tarantinos, but like I study more than anything, Fellini, Kurosawa, Ozu, Hitchcock, those are the guys who really created the way we receive stories. And I wanted to shoot black and brown faces the way old Hollywood would shoot white faces, because I feel like we rarely get that treatment. And I feel like when people shoot a quote unquote an inner city story, it's got to be really gritty and really handheld and like there are elements like that in this movie, but it's not for the sake of being cool. It's for, does this shot and setup make sense for this emotional scene or for where they are emotionally in the story? And I think, when you're making a movie and you only have 9 pages, we're doing 9 pages a day. You don't have a lot of time. You don't have a lot of money. You don't really have a lot of time to explore, so you have to be very intentional about what you want. So when you're seeing a medium, when you're seeing Luis say that line on a medium, I only have that line on that medium. I had to commit to that, And I think when you make those commitments and you establish rules in the sense of like, these are our parameters, all those things naturally fall into place.
And also understanding that when I would deliver the line, the words, I already understood what my place was within all this. And it was interesting when we did the apartment, the way I would prep myself is I would sit on the sofa that had the plastic on it.
Put you in that mood.
We all know that. We all know the plastic.
And that kind of set me up because this is the reality that I grew up with.
Yeah.
You understand? And also even stuff in the kitchen and saying, bro, I don't cook with those kind of pots. I need real pots.
Yeah, used pots.
I need the galvanized pots,
Yeah.
And so because like I said, all those elements are also part of the story, and they're an important part of the story, because emotionally, how many times have I fell asleep on that sofa and I had to peel myself off?
Yeah.
And that feeling,
Without giving too much of the plot away, your character does have an alcohol problem. So, lives by himself. The relationship you in the movie develop with the young man is one based off of, I guess, for both of y'all, loss. And, at the same time, being able to kind of need each other in specific moments.
I mean, for me, it was understanding that the pain was real.
Yeah.
The pain was real. And because the way we grew up, I didn't have to like, oh, okay, what's my idea of pain? No, I lived through the pain.
Yeah.
So I just utilized that.
Just tapped into it.
It sounds like, these scenes, these emotions that you're tapping into, it sounds like it's almost reigniting a fire, right? Because you said if this was the last film you did, you'd be good. But do you feel like there's another spark that comes from making this film with Aristotle? Do you feel like, no, I want to do it again, but in a different way?
That's a great question. And my response to that, it has to be something so mind-boggling, so grounded, so beautiful, so different. That would be the challenge that material would have to present me.
Okay.
I just finished shooting a comedy.
I can imagine.
So-
you stay
with the
working.
funny.
That ain't.
You know what I'm saying?
That is not for question.
And it's interesting because the director will always come up to me after I gave all the takes that they wanted. He said, okay, this one's for fun. And it got to the point that I would say,
Run that. Run that.
It's like, what's more fun than that? This.
But like I said, listen, I'm in a place right now that I'm so blessed with some of the material that I get. Everything is different. I would never compare his material to anything else that's coming my way. Because again, emotionally, comedically, everything's different.
Right.
And look, man, it's like you put all the ingredients on that table, and it's up to me to take that and cook it up.
Yeah.
He put it all on the table,
And you took from.
and I took it, and
I cooked it
boom,
up.
let's go.
Yeah.
Let me follow up on that, Luis. You're one of the most prolific actors of our generation, right? Like, not just the quality of films, but it just seems like you just pop up. You could do comedy, you could do action films, you could do serious movies, but you never seem out of place in any film. Anytime you pop up on something, I'm just like, that
makes
tracks.
sense. Yeah,
that makes sense. I mean, aside from just the volume of movies that you've done throughout your career, how conscious are you of just being able to fit into any role that you feel like you want to do? How conscious are you of that?
First of all, I never think that I've done the same role twice in my brain.
Never.
But I don't know. It's I just get into it. I don't think about it. I know what the premise is. I know what the situation is.
Not to cut you off, but I almost feel like it's almost in the same vein as Aristotle, where he said he wrote this for you.
Right.
I feel like at this point in your career, anybody who reaches out to you is almost like,
I can't tell you how many times that's happened. And at the same time, I can't tell you how many times I'll show up to set and a writer will come up to me and say, I wrote this for you. I just don't think I wrote it right. So you can do whatever you want with it.
right.
And then that's an honor for me to hear that because someone is trusting me.
Yeah.
You're like, how do you feel when someone actually says, yo, I wrote it for you, but I don't think I wrote it right? Like, how do you even tap into like, all right, well, here's how I'm going to play it, and here's how you could write it next time or whatever the case is.
Well,
What's your mindset?
I just want to honor them and honor their words. And I just spice it up.
Yeah.
That opens up the window for improvisation, just to be
Yeah.
you know?
Because you got the skeleton. So now
Yeah.
I'm gonna put the meat on it.
Exactly.
And it could go both ways too, because like even in acting, like physicality is a tool, right? So
Yeah.
there's this like one scene in the movie where Luis is kind of talking about his wife, and I remember saying to him on the day, I was like, something feels off, like it feels a little flat, like I feel like we need to punch this beat up, like this is a really big beat for the story. And he was like, let me think about it. And when we did the next take, all he did was just twist his wedding ring. And it was just like, that was just enough of a layer that it built upon the frame without adding words.
It's a small intricate
It's
detail.
just a small detail,
Yeah.
right? Because it's like, as artists, we're all, our luxury, our privilege is someone watching it more than once, because then they can appreciate all the nuance on the screen. They could be like, oh, that was there from the beginning. So hopefully if somebody watches it twice and they're like, oh, he's talking to us through his physicality.
Yeah.
Like that's an example. Then there was like another example where with words, I had like this little soliloquy and I was like, I wanted Luis to say this poignant thing to Kadir before Kadir left the diner, but it felt too heavy. It felt too perfect. It felt too neat. And he gave me what I wrote, and that was great. But then he gave me something different that was the same, because like we both understood the intention, So that's what I was saying. Like when everyone's making the same movie, that's the lightning in the bottle. But that's so hard to achieve.
And if I may, there was a moment when Kadir comes into the restaurant, and these are things that happen in our lives. I'm sure you guys have been in a situation, and somebody comes and says, "Yo, that's my seat."
Yeah.
I love that line.
And we didn't,
I wasn't gonna say
I was
it,
about to
but
say,
no, like, so
anybody who's ever been
sorry,
to Sahara
just-
East,
you know?
downtown Lower
Yeah,
East
like,
Side,
just-
Low Keys
just-
Corner.
but that's a reality.
It
isn't
is.
it?
So like,
And we
there's
all
a-
gone through it, so I utilized that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's a situation like there's a hookah spot that I go to. It's called Sahara East, and I've been going there for so long, and I've been going there for about 10 years, and they honored me with a LED sign that says Low Keys Corner. So when I go in there and I see somebody sitting in my seat,
It don't look right when someone else is sitting there.
it doesn't. But like I don't put that perspective of like get up,
Yeah.
because like they're still paying customers. But
Yeah.
I do feel a fucking way. Like bro, you see me in here all the time.
But in the movie, I hope I'm not spoiling too much of it. That part comes at such a perfect time.
Oh man.
Because it's like you have so many, I don't want to say one-liners, I don't want to disrespect it, but there's so many moments of levity that is brought where it just feels like sometimes it's very intense and it's like, it's very, oh man, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? And then, perfect example, you coming into the restaurant, I was like, you're sitting in my seat.
It was great too, because we didn't tell Asante we were gonna do that. So his reaction to that is like
genuine.
What are you talking about? So that was good too.
No, all right. So
Yeah.
I want to ask y'all. Y'all know like I'm the heavy in the music, and that's just what I do. And sometimes when we listen to albums that have come out 10, 20, 30 years prior, and we still listen to them to this day, we catch something new every fucking time.
Sure.
Is that something you guys want to achieve with this? Because I remember you mentioned something about watching it again. You see this, you see that. Is that something that's important to you, that you catch a nuance, a line, a meaning, a double entendre or whatever? Is that important to you guys?
Of course. I mean, we're trying to make work that is not representative of a specific time or a specific thing. We're trying to make things that feel specific in a sense of like the tonality, but you want as many people to experience the art as possible, because the art isn't the thing. The art is the conversation after the thing. So it's like, as long as we keep challenging ourselves to challenge the audience, there's always going to be that opportunity to create nuance and layers that people can get something new every time they watch. But that's really hard to achieve. That's being a master of your craft.
Right.
You tapped in with real graffiti artists for this movie, and real groups. Like you didn't just Google some stuff or YouTube. Like what do graffiti groups in New York say? I don't know the proper term for it, but there's crews that you tag a certain walls and all that type of stuff. You got to link up with some actual crews, some real legitimate famed graffiti artist
Yeah.
for this film.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that process, man, because there's a fine line, especially when it comes to creativity and bringing it to a mass sort of medium that
Also representation.
right. Certain folks might maybe be iffy on like okay,
Hesitant,
like
I
it's,
don't know if I want to venture over to that.
it's a little it's a little difficult sometimes to put yourself out there, but you gain the trust of some of the most well-known graffiti crews in New York City. How was it like working with them on this film, and what did they do specifically to help make sure the authenticity of tagging crews around New York City and specifically in the Bronx was properly shown in this movie?
Yeah, I think it's similar to the Bronx. It's similar to Black and Brown Faces. Just respect and admiration. Graffiti culture is a global phenomenon. It is a subculture with its own rules and its own slang and terms. And, at least for me, it's probably one of the last pure, real art forms that's like not guided by capitalism or corporate agenda. Like, these kids are risking their life, they're risking their freedom in order to just express themselves. And I find, especially in this day of instant gratification, like, so many artists forget that, like, being famous when you're alive as an artist is a fairly new thing.
It's a new
That's
thing,
really
yeah.
Andy Warhol kind of started. I mean,
True.
obviously there's the Michelangelos, there's the
Yeah.
Gaudis and the Da Vincis, but like, those guys were commissioned by churches. I'm talking about, like, if you were just like an artist making really dope stuff in your room,
Yeah.
you weren't expecting to be like popping. So I have so much respect for this culture in this world where fame for the art is the goal, but not for themselves. Like, they hide their faces. Like, I find that to be so interesting in this modern day of instant gratification and branding. Everyone's branding themselves. So, I was really lucky. I got to interview over 25 graph artists and just listen to them tell their stories of why they risk their freedom, why they put their life on the line to throw up a tag. How do they feel about people perceiving their artistic expression as solely vandalism and criminal activity? So getting to understand them not only helped me convey the graffiti in a more authentic way, but it helped me make a better story because I valued authenticity even more so. And our movie is unapologetically authentic.
And you probably gained a new level of respect for what they do with their craft, for their city, their borough, their crew.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so you probably look at them in a different lens right now.
Absolutely. And I hope that if you see, or when you see this movie, you walk out of the theater and you see a tag and you go, oh, that's why those 3 little letters are in the corner. That would be really cool.
We spoke about the independent spirit of this film and everything that you guys sort of went through to kind of make it, without even mentioning the strikes, without mentioning anything like that, COVID, all these incredible things that are sort of out of our control that help contributed
These
to
hurdles.
Right.
Creatively. Creatively.
So just talk to me a little bit about that, man. I mean, I know you started shooting the film a while ago, but pre-COVID, but talk to me how that affected the film. Talk to me about how, the strikes ended up affecting some of how the film was made and promoted. I think, now that the writers, SGA,
I think they came to
WGA writers met an agreement, whatever. Yeah. I would just like to know, just from y'all perspective, how that sort of changed how this film was made, or did it change how much this film was made?
It definitely did. And so this response will answer that, but it'll also set up how much of an angel he is. So we actually didn't shoot before COVID. We were supposed to shoot in March of 2020.
Oh, wow.
That's
Like
when
right when it kicked off.
Right
yeah.
there.
2 weeks before COVID
Right
started.
before Rudy Gobert touched the microphones.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Don't do that to Rudy. Let him
Wipe that down. Wipe that down.
That's day one of COVID for me.
It was. That was the
But yeah, so when COVID happened, we lost half of our financing. So my whole theory through this whole thing has been, they can't beat us. That has been my slogan, because we've had to overcome anything that you could imagine as an obstacle we had to overcome it and then some. Like it was just like every step gets continuously harder. So when COVID happened, we lost one of our financiers, which was $1 million, just gone overnight.
Damn.
And you know, once COVID ended and people were like, oh, we're starting to shoot again, we didn't have the money to get greenlit. And Louis, to the credit of him and his son Sami, found Cabrera Capital and found this money, you know? So that changed everything, because I think in order to make a movie, movies are miracles, you have to make it. You can't want to make it. And I think getting so much rejection, overcoming so many obstacles, by the time I made it to day one of being on set, I not only knew I was meant to be there, that was my purpose, but I knew that we were prepared for war, because we just overcame so much.
We just went through war.
Yeah.
Like literally, financially and creatively.
Yeah.
So as you go through the ups and downs, you lose the money, you find the money, COVID happens, all this other stuff. Now we're here and you know, you're trying to promote the movie. You're trying to do the things to get people to see it, make all this money back. Strike happens.
Yeah. Literally.
How does that sort of, what goes through both of your minds as this is happening?
You know, it's like, so it's not that we have to backtrack. We just have to re-strategize it. You know, it's like, okay, we're not going to go this way, but we're going to go this way to get that way, if that makes sense. And, you know, we got the blessings from my union to say, go ahead and promote your film.
That's what's up.
No disrespect to my union, but I was going to promote this movie anyway.
I knew that was coming. I was going to do it regardless.
because again, you know, this is the little film that could. This is the mentality that my brother just said. They can't beat us.
Yeah.
You know, this is the story that so many people relate to on so many different levels. The art of the movie, the family structure of the movie,
The
struggle, the death, the coming to terms, the growth. And I said, you know what? I'm promoting this because there's people in the world that this movie is going to affect in the best way.
Yeah.
Speak directly to them.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm one of those people, man. As soon as I was done, I literally text him. I text Bonsu. I was like, I'm inspired after watching it.
Yeah.
I've never made a movie in my life. I'm like, these are guys I've known for
Years.
a minimum of 10 years each.
Yeah.
And they just made one of the most beautiful films I've ever seen. I'm a New Yorker. It's probably going to hit differently for New Yorkers that watch it.
But the eye's going to open for someone outside the city and outside the state to understand what the Bronx is, positive, negative, whatever the case is. And people are going to be able to relate to that struggle in their own way, in their own cadence.
Yeah, like I almost feel like as I was watching it, you know, I try to keep up with the young folks. I watch TikTok videos on what Gen Zers think New York is, and you know, there's all those stereotypes of the Tims and the Yo Sun B's and all that type of stuff.
Chop cheese and
all that stuff.
Shit,
I love the Ninja Turtles stuff. Like I thought that was cute. I thought that was great. But you know, you're an OG New Yorker, Luis, man. Like you've seen the city go through so much over the past several years, man. And you know, I just, for somebody who's, I don't want to say you've had a bird eye view of New York City, but you've lived a life that a lot of New Yorkers won't ever really live, man. Like you've been everywhere, and you've got to see.
I used to hang out with that guy that was on your shirt.
This guy right here, exactly. Talk. I think.
Okay.
This was God telling me to wear this shirt, man. Talk to me about this, man.
You know, and you know, we knew Basquiat before anybody knew Basquiat.
When did you meet him? What was that experience like?
Well, it was under really sad circumstances. You know, because we used to hang out we used to have a spot on 6th Street and Avenue B. And but it was also the drug spot. You know?
Yeah.
And so he would come and say, yo, you guys got an extra dollar too?
Was you?
But we didn't know who he was.
Okay.
I mean, I wasn't dealing.
Oh, because I was all gonna ask you. Was you
I was never into that. I was a community activist.
Right.
It just so happens that the drug dealers share the same spot that we.
Well,
used to
you got to
operate at.
activate somewhere. That's probably the places.
You know,
that's
and,
the-
and, and so he was like one of the first guys, him and Al Diaz and stuff, you know, because
Same.
they used to run together, you know, but we had no clue who he was.
I mean, is it a trip though to kind of like, even though you didn't know who he was at that time, you know, as the years go on
As
and
it
you kind of
progresses,
see,
like, I knew him.
you see the influence that
yeah.
he's had on not just New York City but just culture in
Oh,
general.
yeah, I mean, listen, I see that influence on that mural that we see at the end in the movie.
Yep.
You know, that's part of that influence. You know, and I'm just gonna go back a minute because it's like even though it's a Bronx story, this story could happen in Austin, Texas,
Chicago, Detroit,
San Jose, California. You know, North Hollywood, Miami.
Dade County.
You know,
Yeah.
because all those places also have artists
Yeah.
that are doing the same thing. You know, and this story pretty much brings it all together for them, and it capitulates the struggle, the beauty, the end result of what is the art. You know, because it's like I saw a video. Somebody sent me a video, and somebody in the beautiful art, but they had this huge studio, and so the streets is really what becomes the canvas for all these young
That's their studio.
people. That's their studio.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so somebody paints something and then somebody tags it when they shouldn't, then that's like
It's fighting
crossing the
words,
line.
man.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, like I say, in our film, we really see that the culture of the art, of the street art, of really what it is and what it means to people. I was in Bogota, Colombia, doing a show that you guys know. I'm gonna say it, Narcos, and
Shout out Netflix.
we're going down this boulevard, and we'll talk about like 30 blocks, and it was 30 blocks of murals that different graffiti artists had done. So it's like you're looking at this stuff, and it's just the whole influence that's there. It's incredible. It's a real culture. You know, it's like when Michelangelo started doing his stuff back in the day.
Yeah.
Nobody paid attention to this guy. You know, they said, "Oh, okay, that's cool," but it was like years later that said, "Oh my God, that's
Work of art.
those are masterpieces."
Yeah.
right.
It's
And it's the same thing with what we're seeing and what he wrote in his story and when you see the visuals, it all comes together like that.
I remember my fault, just to stay on the art side of it, man. Like I remember there was like a time where I think Giuliani was trying to go real hard on just getting rid of graffiti. This is
killing all that
vandalism.
shit, yeah.
You know what I mean?
He's
This
an
is-
idiot, but go ahead.
He's definitely an idiot. But
That's a whole nother conversation.
you know, it's almost like you mentioned how graffiti culture is one of the last like true art forms, especially when it comes to New York City. And I think it went through a wave where you saw, you know, I remember when was it 5 Points? When 5 Points got painted over and all this type of stuff. And then now, you know, I'm not saying New York is on an upswing again, but you know, I feel like the fact that we kind of stayed away from the city during the pandemic and a lot of these big sort of multi-billion-dollar buildings are becoming vacated and stuff like that. All this wild stuff that's happened since like there was, you know, the pandemic and the city sort of started to dilute itself.
Yeah.
That now I've noticed more graffiti starting to come out and it's being more prominent and it's celebrated now. It's not looked at as, you know, vandalism. Now it's almost in the DNA of the city.
Like, thank God it's still there.
Right. Like there's
Absolutely.
it feels like what you just said, man. Like I think a lot of people didn't know what they saw in this graffiti for a number of years. And now as we kind of take a step back and time has gone on, and you could see specific trains and big billboards and certain areas that are tagged up that could only be done by a spray paint. Like this isn't, you know what I mean?
Not paintbrush, not
right. It wasn't like, oh, we're gonna shut this thing down for a couple hours. We're gonna do this thing. Put like, nah. A couple kids got up there, did their thing, and years ago you would see it painted over in like a month or two.
Sure.
But now you almost feel like that spirit of New York is where that's at. Do you believe that a film like this can help sort of like continue to push our city back towards what made it that,
or
which was the graffiti, or reintroduce to a new generation of people? Was that something that you were cognizant of when you was making this?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I'm just protecting authenticity, and like and just trying to replicate my true experience to growing up here. Even though I'm not a graffiti artist, I've grown up with graffiti.
Yeah.
It's just a byproduct of living in the city. So, I never wanted to make a graffiti 101 movie. I don't want you to watch this and be like, I want to be a graffiti artist. I want you to come out and be like, I'm just inspired to do whatever it is that I want to do. And I think that's what graffiti represents. So it just thematically works out. Yeah, and I think once you're so protective of that authenticity, you don't even have to be conscious of it. It's just, I call them happy accidents. They just gonna pop up all over the place because we're all making the same movie.
Yeah, all pulling in the same direction, man.
Let me ask you, is there a soundtrack to this film?
Yeah, so we have our original score, which was made by Pierre Charles, 27-piece orchestra at the Sony lot on like the same room that John Williams records his score in. It was insane. So that'll be out on Spotify really soon. And we have a bunch of amazing artists like Rome Streets, and I've been chopping up with West Side Gun, and Chuck English did all the needle drops for the movie.
Nice.
So we've just got we got this whole music chat group going on, and we're trying to figure out the best way to like maybe do like a music inspired by or something like that. But the score will be out on Spotify, I think, in like a week or two.
Do you have certain artists that you feel can speak directly to and articulate what this movie is?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any like one particular artist.
No, just like a variation of I'm not asking just one, just like a variation of artists.
I think just any artist who's like speaking their truth and being vulnerable and has a balance of like raw sophistication, it would make sense to be a part of this film, because that's really what this film is. It's like, I'm trying to treat street culture like fine art and like shoot it and depict it that way. But yeah, I mean, those Griselda guys, I'm so blessed that they've been embracing of us in the movie and have given us like Rome Streets. So we were supposed to have, if you see the movie in theaters, the end crawl song, the very end song, is a Rome Street song that he custom made for the movie called Story Ave. Because we originally had Nas The World Is Yours, but we couldn't afford that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
With a small movie.
Nice little ticket.
So it's just like even that, like Rome in 48 hours, I was like, yo, we can't afford the song. Like, I need something for the end. Oh, I got you. I'll send you something in 48 hours. And it's like Story Ave and the hook. And he's literally speaking from Kadir's perspective throughout the whole movie. Like, man, that's really cool. So like it's artists like that.
Luis, at the screening, just to step away from the movie for a little bit, at the screening, you were given a Lifetime Achievement Award for the Latino Film Festival, and they ran a highlight tape of all your greatest roles and all that type of stuff. And I think in certain communities, especially in brown communities, there's certain actors that like have like a certain like place in our heart that almost, and I don't want to say, I don't want to sound blasphemous, but they're almost like father figures on TV. You know what I mean? I'm not Puerto Rican, but I can imagine a lot of Puerto Ricans that grew up. No, I'm not, surprisingly. But I can imagine. I feel like for Luis, like the version of him for us would probably be like John Witherspoon, like Pops.
Yeah.
Or something where he just plays like the OG, could be serious, but is actually hilarious all the time. Right. In a lot of roles, man, you have always been a very, I'd like to say you're always a vision of Puerto Rican culture. When it comes to taking these roles and especially playing these roles, how much does it really affect you as far as like how you want your legacy to be? I mean, you're a legendary actor. You've done some of the greatest films, TV shows we've ever seen, all while staying true to your heritage and the people who look up to you and look at you and be like, Luis Guzman. You said something in the beginning of the speech too, where you're like, oh, I know that guy from there somewhere. I know that guy from somewhere. And then eventually they were just like, oh, that's Luis Guzman. You know what I mean? In your own thoughts, how do you sort of see yourself as far as legacy is concerned, not just as an actor, but as someone who represents so many people who enjoy your films, specifically Puerto Rican people, the Latinos?
That's a great question.
It's interesting because I grew up with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And when I mean I grew up Puerto Rican, Dominican, Mexican, Jamaican, Black, West Indian, Jews.
That's New York, man.
That's literally New York.
But that was my crew.
Yeah.
You know, we had a crew of kids, you know?
Yeah.
And so I was blessed to have that. You know? I knew what matzo balls tasted like. You know?
Yeah.
I understood curry, you know, Korean food
Yep.
and stuff. And I also got to learn a little bit about the cultures, you know? One of my boys, his dad was Indonesian. He was in the Merchant Marines. I could never wait for that man to come home, man, because he used to cook this dish, you know? And so, you know, as far as my legacy goes, my legacy is rooted really the way I grew up and with all the people that I grew up, because that's what I exemplify. You know, and I don't know if you guys know this, but I have 4 children that I adopted.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
And 2 of them happen to be Afro-American. You know, my oldest is Mexican Salvadorian. I have a Puerto Rican daughter, biological.
Mm-hmm.
I have another daughter who is Afro-American and Jewish, you know? And so it's like, understand, I don't see color.
Right.
I see humanity.
Right.
I see humanity. And that's what I gravitate to. You know, and I don't particularly go into a role saying, okay, the Puerto Rican guy showing up.
Right.
No, this human is showing up to do his work, to do his message, to do his love letter to this director.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because he gave me a love letter, I got to give it back to him. You know, and that's how I will always approach my life. You know, it's that simple for me. You know, and like I said, you know, growing up with everybody that I grew up with and getting that perspective has really helped me, like I said, love what I do, love all the people that I work with, and more so, love how I have affected people and humanity, whether it was through my comedy, through my drama, or anything
Anything in
that
between.
spectrum.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. So
I love that you mentioned the matzo ball soup, because I just watched You're So Not Invited to My Bar Mitzvah on Netflix, and you play a Puerto Rican Jewish person, and you're with Adam Sandler, and you fit right, and they make no mention of it at all. Like it's just normal as hell, and it's just, and I think that's really dope because.
Yeah.
In years prior, it would probably be like a whole thing about how the wife met and da-da-da-da-da, and then you got the yarmulke on and all that type of stuff. But it just is in the film.
Yeah.
And it makes more sense hearing you explain that.
And
after
I'm
seeing
sure
that
that's
film.
like just that thought process and that mindset is important to pass down to your children, for them to see that, for them to hear you articulate it through your art, and probably to them. Like, how important is it for you to know that they have received, you know, your thoughts and your ideas in a world that's very cruel, in a world that's very judgmental, in a world that's very sectored off into these certain parts of life.
Not to mention the industry. That's also
It just
like
the
that
industry
as
alone,
well.
but just like personally, how important
Yeah.
is that for you that they get that?
I'm sorry?
That they like your kids, you know, your adopted children,
Yes.
that they get the ideas of what you just spoke about just being a human, that you not seeing color, growing up around different people and accepting their flaws and their faults and their positives. Like, how important is it for you that they understand that?
Well, I think that they're still growing and that they're still learning. And they get it. You know, you guys don't know this, but I raised my kids in Vermont.
Okay.
And Vermont is the whitest state in the Union.
Nice.
You know, but I was privileged enough, fortunate enough to always have them traveling with me. Listen, on Thanksgiving Day, I had them with me, and we were like in Hawaii doing a movie. Thanksgiving Day, we went, all of us, to a homeless shelter. And we prepped meals. And it wasn't about that they were homeless people. They were people that were in pain, that were in need, and we were doing a good deed. Because that's what we do as a family. We take care of others. You know? I can't tell you how many times we would drive around with leftovers, and the leftovers weren't going to make it home. We knew that.
Yeah.
We were looking for someone that was like, the homeless person.
They need that.
And my children would get out and say, we like to give you this meal. They did that, you know?
Yeah.
And I was always proud of that because that's how my mom raised me,
Yeah.
you know? And also being the social worker that I was, you know? I'm working with Black and Latino young people who were like third, fourth generation welfare recipients. And my job, which is the best job I ever had, was to help them understand independence. To say, you're not gonna be the next generation. I'm gonna provide you with the tools so you could go out into the world, so you can gain your independence. You know,
My mom's a social worker too, so
Oh, yeah?
so I always that hits me differently.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and in this movie, you know, you mentioned obviously why it was drawn to you, and I think after we've spoken about it, you can kind of see why. I think a lot of it you draw from real life. A lot of the movie you obviously draw from real life as well. But you know, throughout the movie, you know, they keep asking you like, why are you doing this? Why are you going out of your way to help this kid? And why are you risking all this just to, you know, make sure this kid that you just met off the train is okay? And I think after hearing this conversation and talking, you know, people will really see like, you know, it's not just a role you playing. Like a lot of that is you know, like you said, I know these guys. Like I know these kids. I know, you know, I've worked with them. I've seen them. I am them. When it comes to this movie and tying it into just real life and just how much you took into making it, was there any point like throughout this entire process that you felt like maybe it flowed too close to the sun? Did it ever feel too close where it's like, oh man, I don't know if I could do this? Or as an actor, do you relish that opportunity to make it feel so close that like I can add this to the performance?
I think it was an opportunity that I had to use those tools that I've developed in helping out our humanity. But like you've been saying, because I don't want to give too much of the story away.
Yeah.
But as far as the character that I played and understanding his pain, his loss, and what he was hoping to gain in this young man, that just kind of brought it all together for me because I've lost, I've gained, in my life. And like I said, this script allowed me the opportunity to do something that gave me a sense of resolve. Not only as an actor, but as a human being.
You know, I don't want to keep y'all too long, but I really want to ask this question, and this is for both of y'all. You know, you finish, everything's wrapped up, you got these screenings. Describe the first time you guys saw the movie in full and it ends. What's your instant emotion or reaction? Mentally, physically, spiritually, like just for the both of y'all.
You go first.
I think it really hit me. It hit me more when I watched it 2 weeks ago at the Latino Film Festival. Because when I first saw it, it's like you're seeing it for the first time.
Right.
So you're just processing somewhat, Yeah. And then Chicago was great. But when I saw it 2 weeks ago, I finally got not only watching it in my own hometown, but watching it, and it really sunk in. It really, really sunk into me. Like, wow, this is beautiful. This is real. It's a masterpiece. It affected me. It affected me, because it's like I had an opportunity to try to help someone, to try to help me through my pain, and when I see that, it's like, it really resonates with me. And I felt it resonated with the audience, because people came out affected by this movie.
Yeah.
People didn't come out and say, hey man, it was great, thank you man, do another one. No, people wanted to conversate about it, to talk about it. Yo, dude, this scene affected me this way. So like I said, I know we have something really special.
Aristotle, same question.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the director, so I'm just like, okay, we need to fix.
Don't be biased.
75
You're one of those people that's like
immediately.
Let's do this.
Every single time. Like Friday night was our opening night, and there was a problem with the sound, and I was like, that needs to be fixed. So yeah, I mean, I've seen this movie, no exaggeration, well over 100 times. In full. So it's a different experience for me because I'm numb to it all at that point. Like, honestly, the gold for a filmmaker at any level of their career is perspective, because you're so entrenched in the work that it's hard to look at it from a person who is not familiar with the work. So just honestly speaking, I just started having non-hate watches like 3 watches ago, where like I can actually just watch it and watch it as someone who randomly found this.
That's what I was about to say. Like, explain the non-hate watch to the uninformed.
Yeah, non-hate watch is just like, I'm just like, oh man, I should have did it like that.
Yeah.
Oh man, we should have picked that. I should have cut there. Oh, I'm just thinking about, because you never really finish a movie. You abandon it.
Wow.
It's just the nature of the beast. You never have enough time. And it was just a thing where I had to abandon it in order to get it out into the world. So yeah, it's been fairly recent that I can watch it and have feelings. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Luis, Aris, I know we talked a lot about the film, but before we get you out of here, we got to talk about a little bit of New York sports.
Oh, come on. All right, let's go.
I know it's been a rough couple of months, you know what I mean, for us. Baseball, Yankees and Mets kind of let us down.
Man.
I got hyped for football season.
Are the Bills part of New York sports?
Yeah. We talk Giants. What's up? We good?
Are we good with time, by the way?
We're 11:46 right now. 5 minutes? Perfect. 5 minutes is all we need.
Let's get to it.
Giants and Jets, you know what I mean? Giants, all right.
Giants are 1-2. We got a Monday night game tomorrow. We all right.
But, basketball season's right around the corner. You know what I mean? We see you at the Garden always, catching the Knicks, You feel me? Lots of trades happening around the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
I just want to talk Knicks with your partner. Let's talk about our boys, bro. What are we looking like this year? You like Jalen Brunson? You like Julius, RJ?
Listen, I love our whole team.
Yeah.
I think that they've done a really good job of putting pieces together.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm glad that, you know, nobody's hitting a panic button.
Yes.
And
Which is what they've done a lot in the past.
well, yeah, I mean, listen, we could have had Donovan Mitchell in a draft.
He had a heart attack over that. Like,
You know,
It'll come back around. It'll come back around.
we
Could have Tyrese Halliburton.
We could have gotten the guy MVP from Denver.
Oh my gosh.
went in the
Jokic.
Jokic?
Yeah.
Oh, Jokic?
Yeah.
He went in the second round.
Could have got Jokic.
He went in the second. And so it's
Jamal
like,
Murray, a lot of guys, a lot of
Yeah.
almost
Y'all passed
Knicks.
up on a
But-
lot of.
But-
but
years.
Grant, you know, but like I said, I think we done this particular brain trust
Yeah.
has done a really better job
Yep.
of really just putting a good team together, a good young team, an athletic team, you know. And listen, Julius Randle is a beast.
I love
He is a
Julius,
beast.
yo. Julius
You know
is
what I mean?
overhated in this
He's a
city.
beast.
He's
You know?
overhated in this city. I
You
love
know,
me some Julius.
because people don't know basketball.
Nah.
Those overhaters do not understand. You know.
25 and 10 don't grow on trees, people.
No, yeah, and it's like, you know, Barrett. He's gonna be fine.
Like what I saw from him in the
Star
playing for
Jet.
Canada
Yeah.
this
Star
year.
Jet.
It looked good.
You know,
Mm.
Bronson is great. You know, it's just understanding it's a team sport. You know, one guy does not carry a team.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know, they could.
We've
but
seen it happen.
You're not
but
gonna get the result. you
I
know?
enjoy this Knicks era better because of exactly that. Like they didn't put all their pieces together to get one superstar. And now we're all just like, come on, Melo, lead us.
Yeah,
Come on, Amari, lead us. You know what I mean?
I'm
Like,
sorry that they did that a few years
I
ago.
love him. I love Melo. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
but the chemistry
Yeah.
just wasn't right.
This feels like, and we'll wrap this up right after this. This Knicks team feels like maybe they're not a championship team, but for the longest, especially in the past 15 years, I've just been like, can you just put out a team that I can enjoy watching
Real
every
product.
night?
Oh, yeah.
And they do. They play hard every single night. They're in the playoffs every year
Listen,
now.
that's why I ride with Tibbs.
I like Tibbs,
That's why
man.
I ride with Tibbs.
He's
because-
old school, but I like that.
But listen, you know, we're gonna play hard every night. We're gonna get rebounds. We're gonna play defense. We're
Yeah.
gonna make a pass. Like
That's what
I rock
scares
with Tibbs.
a lot of stars away, though.
And here's
from
the other
Knicks.
thing. Even though they lost to Miami in the playoffs,
Yeah.
they lost one game by 5 points.
yeah,
They
lost
weren't
another-
blowouts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
weren't.
so I mean,
And Julius
we're
was
there. We're there.
Right there, man.
I'm just saying, y'all just got to worry about Milwaukee now.
I mean, Milwaukee was already. That's why
And
I'm not
saying-
tripping. Milwaukee was already good.
yeah.
they just
Milwaukee
got
was already
another
yeah.
star
I'm just
player.
saying,
It's like,
but
all right,
now,
they're
but
still
like,
here.
I'm
You
just
still
saying,
got to
but-
beat them. But
now.
in any case, man, Story Ave out in theaters right now. Aristotle Torres, Luis Guzman. Thank you so much
Thank
thank
you.
you.
for
Thank
coming
you,
to
my
say
brother.
less, man.
God
It
bless.
really means a lot.
Oh,
We've been meaning to do this
bless,
for a while, and it means everything, man. Please, if you get a chance, go check out the movie. It is incredible. Another friend of the show, Melvin Gregg, in the movie as well. Go check it out.
Shout out to Bonsu as well.
Shout out Bonsu Thompson, one of the co-writers. It's an amazing, amazing film, especially if you're a New Yorker. Just support good art, bro. Like it's been a crazy couple of months. There's AIs coming in, taking all this stuff. Support real artists. Support real creatives.
Yeah.
Put your money where your mouth is, man. Real spill, bro.
Appreciate y'all for coming through.
Appreciate y'all. Lo, you got anything to say before we wrap up?
I'm going to Atlanta. I don't know if that's important. Me and my girlfriend. Me and my
What, you been
girlfriend.
traded?
I was about to say, you
No,
want
we're
to
just
deal?
going on vacation for a couple of days. Just couldn't out the city. That's
Enjoy
Yeah,
it, bro.
that's all
Enjoy
we
it, bro.
doing. That's all we
Luis, Aristotle, any last
Bless.
words
Thank
before
you.
we wrap
Thank you,
up?
my
doing.
brother.
Nah, thank you, brother.
Yeah,
Appreciate
you know, Story Ave, like Cass said, Story Ave in theaters now. Listen, we are the underdogs, so we need all the support we could get. Let's show all those people who said black and brown faces can't make money at the movies
That's
that they're
right.
wrong. You know, yeah, come show love.
Yeah, and like I said, show us the love because we love doing this project. This project is for you. This is our love letter to the world.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful love letter that is. That's a wrap for today's episode. My name is Kazeem. Find me with it, and like we always do with this time,
Go ahead.
stay free,
We miss you.
stay safe,
We miss y'all.
and always say less.
We're
We catch
back.
y'all next time, people. Appreciate y'all. Peace. That was great. Nicki Minaj's husband is on house arrest for threatening Offset. Right after that, she previews a song on IG saying she got killers who will pull up and do what she say. This was the same Nicki who threatened to send her husband to Academic's house for his comments about her. This is the same Nicki who told Meek Mill to have his crew beat up Quentin Miller, which then happened. Have you ever heard a woman scream, quote, "My man will fuck you up," over some shit she started herself? That's Nicki. If you wanted to see how these stories end, check out my interview with Travis Rudolph. After an argument with his girlfriend, she sent her brother and 3 other guys to shoot up his house. One of them ended up dead. Another one got shot. Travis was charged with murder, which he luckily beat in trial due to self-defense. To all the men out there, I don't care how fat her ass is or how good the sex is, avoid women like Nicki who use men as crash dummies like the plague.
Pawns.
I said what I said. End tweet. Wow. Thoughts, Lo?
I agree
Rosy,
with him.
have you ever on the subject of this tweet, X post, whatever the hell it is? What are we calling this now?
Twitter.
I'll ask both of you people. Have you ever been in a relationship where the person you were with, have you ever gassed
no,
someone to
no.
do something? Then have you ever been with somebody?
I've never put myself in a situation to do that. I've never been in a situation where I had to do that because the women that I've messed with prior to are not insane, psychotic assholes.
Oh wow!
So I don't have to ever worry
So you're saying
about
Nicki's
that.
a psychotic asshole? Okay, just making sure.
I've never asked anyone to do something.
But you know women who do this. We all
I
know
do,
women who
but
do
I
this.
have brothers, so
I
my
know, yeah.
my respect for men is a little different
Right.
because I have brothers and I don't have any sisters or anything. So it's like my respect for men is like I know where that can go.
Right.
I have 3
I
sisters.
know where that can go.
I have 3 sisters. So I know where that shouldn't go.
Right.
You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So it's like they're 2 different perspectives, but it's just like,
I mean, I do have a rule that
What?
I only date men who could beat up my ex. But that's it. But that's it. But there's
okay.
But you
there's
never,
no reason.
you've never put them in a
I've
situation
never
where you
put them
have
in a
to.
situation, but I
beat
just
up
have to
your
feel like you could
Okay.
if anything happened.
I think women do that.
Yo, alright.
I think women do that subconsciously though.
all right, yeah, like, all right, my
If
nigga.
anything ever popped off, I need to know who I'm with can beat your ass if you pop up anywhere and you're acting crazy.
I think people do that
That's
subconsciously.
more of a you problem, letting that nigga pop up and
No, it's not. Men are crazy. Some people,
Yeah,
people
yeah,
are
no,
crazy.
yes,
People are
yeah,
crazy.
people are crazy.
But
Yeah.
I've never
Nah,
asked.
yeah, I've never.
That's wild.
I've never had a girl ask me to, or a girl's never put me in a situation where I had to defend myself or defend her or defend her
Right.
homegirls, whatever the case is. So it's
But-
like I normally don't deal with people like that anyway.
But we're
me
missing the
neither.
point here. The point is, he looked fucking stupid
looked
posting that.
yo.
I got
It's just
secondhand
like,
embarrassment.
it's-
I was cringing when I was watching the video. I was like, ugh.
I don't understand
So
why.
I'm like, yeah,
like,
come outside. I'm like, you are 50.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
We,
Yeah.